Now for a very impressive showcase of white's attacking potential, even when the game starts relatively slowly. This was between Motylev and Vocaturo from the Tata Steel B group in 2012, and Motylev, as everyone seems to be doing at the moment, chose this quiet line of the Ruy Lopez, bishop c2, g8, a4, bishop d7. And Vocaturo picked this slightly unusual move, g6, and now bishop g5. Excuse me, followed by bishop g7, queen d2. Motylev notes that the immediate h6 loses material to a takes b5. So because of that, white has time to consolidate his bishop on g5. And Vocaturo now stepped out of the pin, which clearly has its own point, but after knight g3, queen b7, he's certainly somewhat abandoning his kingside, bringing his queen to an aggressive square on the queen side. b4 is very sensible, simply gaining queenside space and protecting the pawn from an attack by the black queen on b7. And now Vocaturo went for this bishop g4 idea, bishop b3, knight d8, d4, and now exchanged on f3. But after g takes f3, it turns out that white has certain new attacking possibilities. In particular, he can play with f4, which proves to be extremely dangerous in the game. So black played knight e6, bishop e3, knight d7, f4. Takes, bishop takes, and here Vocaturo took on f4, which Motylev criticizes. He suggests that knight f6 is a more tenacious defense, intending bishop h6, a5, with a certain amount of counterplay on the queen side, although still good chances for white in view of this extremely strong bishop. Instead, after knight takes f4, queen takes f4, we reach a position with opposite colored bishops on the board, but one where the bishop on g7 is limited by the white pawns on c3 and d4, while the bishop on b3 has a fantastic open diagonal aiming at the very weak pawn on f7. And after knight f6 to cover that pawn, it's instructive that Motylev didn't rush in with the immediate e5. Where after takes, if white were to take, knight d5 would be possible. Motylev also notes that bishop takes f7 check doesn't give a huge amount. After this, because white's given up his main attacking piece, so black can even just take on a4. But h4 is very unpleasant, because if black were to block this pawn, then e5 would come with considerably more force than in the previous note. For instance, takes. And here, in view of the weakness of the g6 pawn, I think black needs to be considerably more careful than he did in the previous line. Although it's possible that perhaps he still should have tried this, because after h4, rook e7, h5, white had managed to achieve this ideal attacking setup against the the black kingside, so that the pawn has options of taking on g6 or of playing onto h6, and the bishop on b3 is still alive, which is a real problem for black. So he played rook a e8, exchange on b5, rook e3, another kind of excellent attacking move, preparing perhaps to bring this rook to e1, but also to bring this rook somewhere to the king side. And after queen c8, the finish which Motylev uses is really very impressive. So he chooses h6, which seems to block lines of his attack, but also just controls key squares around the black king and creates additional tactical weaknesses. Here, if you turn on your computer, it'll recommend this, but in Motylev's view, this ending should be winning for white. So bishop h8 was played, but now e5 and certain aspects of the position and the bad position of the black king begin to become a feature. So, for instance, if now queen g4, white can take, and rook takes e7 when white mates with rook takes f7 in view of rook a8 mate. So black can't play that. After d takes e5, knight g4, queen g4 is similar to the last note with e takes f6. But instead black played knight g4, but Motylev had seen that here he has a very strong move e6, breaking the communication between the queen and the knight, and after f5, this very thematic sacrifice. So knight takes f5, g takes f5, rook g3. And it turns out that because of the terrible position of the black king with two squares controlled by white pieces, black actually has no way of stopping queen takes f5 followed by taking on g4. So he played bishop e5, which presumably just overlooked that after queen takes, the knight is pinned and so can't recapture. And after rook f8, black loses another piece after rook takes g4 in view of queen g5 check, and so he resigned. So a really impressive attacking display by Motylev. I think a lot of very precise calculation clearly went into it, but it's impressive just how he managed to execute all of the key attacking breaks. So in particular, using the h-pawn very aggressively, pushing it to h5 and ultimately to h6, and then breaking through with e5 to liberate this bishop on b3. And again, it's something which perhaps will be a constant theme through this DVD, but black needs to be very careful about playing bishop g4 and taking on f3, because the slight structural damage which he can inflict after g takes f3 has to be balanced against, firstly, the fact that he gives white an additional f-pawn to play with, which can undermine the black center, and secondly, leaving the Spanish bishop on b3 completely unopposed.